find out what the father of modern HR has to say about the next generation of leadership and culture here on the Genetics of Leadership.
Welcome to the Genetics of Leadership, a monthly roundtable about culture and organizational transformation. We are Douglas and Lisa Marie Hatcher, co-founders of Communicate for Impact, and we help organizations align their leadership, strategy, and culture through better storytelling. And joining us is our co-host, Dan Eds. Dan helps organizations build high-impact cultures that deliver greater employee engagement and create new customer value. And today we are delighted to welcome Dr. Dave Ulrich. Professor Ulrich is one of the preeminent academics and thought leaders in the HR space. In fact, HR Magazine called him the father of modern HR. Dr. Ulrich is the Rensis Likert Professor at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business. He's also a partner at the RBL Group, a consulting firm focused on helping organizations and leaders deliver value. Welcome, Professor Ulrich. We are thrilled and honored to have you join us today.
Well, first of all, please call me Dave. That's a lot easier. And I love the message, father of HR, but I'm going to show a picture. I'm the father of this great family. So, much more fun to be the father of a family of 3 children and 10 grandchildren. So thank you, Lisa Marie and Douglas and Dan. What a privilege to join you today. And I've seen other shows. You guys do such an incredible job. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. That's high praise. Thank you. So Dave, our company, Communicate for Impact, we are all about helping companies align around story. So I've got to kick things off by asking you about your story and how you got into the field of organizational behavior.
Oh, it's always fun to tell nothing's more fun than letting people talk about themselves. So I was a student on my way to law school. I got co-opted into a course called Organizational Behavior, OB. The professor captured my imagination. He said, there's no books, there's no text. Go observe the organizations where you live and where you work and describe what happens. I ended up writing, I'll just give one example. I cheated, I confess now. I wrote a paper for my English professor on Beowulf, and I turned it into him. Beowulf, the ideal organization man. My English professor said, that's weird. And he said, do another one. So I did 15 papers for his course. He said, what are you doing going to law school? I went into OB. And I called my parents and I said, I'm not going to law school. And they were, oh my goodness, I'm going to go into OB. And they said, yes, a doctor. And I said, no, I'm going to study organizational behavior. And they said, what is that? And I said, I have no clue, but it captures me. And for the last number of decades, I have OCD. I'll finish that story. My wife's a psychologist. OCD for me is organizational compulsive disorder. I go into companies today and I reorganize them. I was in a company yesterday having a lunch, and I said to the person I was having lunch with, I wonder if I could call the manager over. I could improve their productivity about 5%. And the person said, Dave, don't do that anymore. You don't need to do that. But I love to study organizations. They're just fascinating for me, how they affect people and how they work. That's my story.
Wow, that's awesome. I remember seeing a video of the professor that you were talking about.
Oh, Bonner Ritchie was just an iconic mentor. He still is. In fact, I shared at a class I taught last night. It's wonderful to have mentors. And I'm sure Douglas and Lisa Marie, you have mentors, and Dan. I don't want to see him because every time I see him, he says, so what are you doing to serve the world? I know you've done other things. You've got to keep serving the world. And so I confessed to a group of students last night. I haven't seen him for a number of months because I need to get my service hat on, which I hope I wear with pride. But Bonner Ritchie and others have just been incredible mentors.
Wow, that's a great question. I love that.
Dave, that reminds me that I have a few mentors in my own world, and sometimes I sort of hate to see them because I typically come away with about 5 new books that I have to read.
Oh,
So, and
eh,
like I have to read them within the next 24 hours.
yeah,
So,
I get it. I get it. And I've been blessed to have mentors from all parts. And I think I like, Dan, what you said. The research used to say have a mentor. Now the
mhm,
research is saying have a network of mentors,
Mm.
plural,
mm,
Yeah.
because the network allows you to get a lot of difference. I have mentors who are very into theory and research and statistics, and mentors into humanitarian aid, and mentor just and religion and work. And Dan, it sounds like you had that
oh yeah.
ecosystem of mentors.
Yeah, and a breadth of mentors, not just
Yeah.
one from one discipline, but a whole breadth. Wondering if I could ask you a question specifically about culture and leadership. But as you work with organizations today, um, talk to us about the impact of leadership and culture and leadership, and more to the point about how culture and leadership, maybe specifically culture, impacts organizational performance.
Oh, watch out. We only have 40 minutes. I
We're
could go
ready.
forever on this. It's fascinating. Peter Drucker is attributed to have said culture eats strategy for breakfast. By the way, he never said that.
Yep.
My takeaway is if you have a great quote, tell the world that Albert Einstein or Peter Drucker said it. So everybody will read it. There's a lot of ways to go with that. One is research, because I love research. I think there is value in research. We have studied, and I'm going to do a hand gesture to embarrass myself. We have studied people, talent, workforce, the employee, the individual,
Mm,
competence. And we've studied my fifth, the team, the organization, the culture. And we love to look not at what you do as a person or what you do as an organization, but the impact of that on outcomes, financial performance,
mhm,
customer share, strategic reinvention, employee well being. It's fascinating what we find. Which matters more, the people or the organization? And I love that research question, because if I'm a leader or if I'm listening, where do I allocate? Getting people, the war for talent, or getting teamwork? The research is compelling. 5-1. Actually, 8-2, 4-1 organization. Individuals play well, organizations win. Michael Jordan, basketball is on. I like basketball. Michael Jordan won the scoring title 9 times. Incredible athlete. Incredible athlete. 3 times he did not win the championship, and he scored 36 points a game. 6 times, those who follow sports, he won the championship, and he scored 29 points a game. Until he reduced his personal scoring 20%, the team didn't win.
Yeah.
So, Dan, the research is so compelling. You fight with people, you win with teams. And so the culture is that piece of teamwork. Now you can go deeper. What do we mean by that? But that's the research. And I think we see it. Culture outlasts the leader.
yep.
Leaders matter. Leadership matters more. And the ultimate test of a leader is to create the next generation of leadership so that
Mhm.
that leadership perpetuates the right leadership or the culture. By the way, I'll finish my hand gesture and then I'm going to make you guys look stupid with me.
Okay,
You've got
good.
talent,
It won't be hard.
that's people, organization, that's your fist, that's leadership. That's the Chinese symbol of respect. My
Mm,
forearms then represent the HR systems, staffing, training, development that makes that happen. So if you could all talent, organization, leadership,
So
talent,
so
organization,
talent.
leadership,
Okay.
and then go like that. That's the HR wave. Okay,
Okay.
that's how we all
All
look
right.
stupid. By the way, I love simplicity and complexity. My PhD is in numerical taxonomy. It's statistics to make the world simple. If I'm a business leader or an HR leader in the business, do we have the right talent? Do we have the right organization? Do we have the right leadership? And the HR services, staffing, training, development, communication, work policies that makes that happen. So that's the HR wave that I've been trying to advocate for longer than I should.
That's great. I got to jump in and say the Lakers, to your point, Dave, with LeBron James apparently has to score 50 points for them to win something. And they're barely, I don't even know if they're going to get into the play in this year.
Douglas, I'm going to save everybody something phenomenal. We won't talk much more sports, but the answer is absolutely. I mean, LeBron James upped his scoring average in the last month,
Yeah.
20%, and they're losing.
Yeah.
That's the point. You got to have good people. I mean, if you have really, by the way, if the four of us plus one created a 5-person basketball team, I'm just going to reach out here and say we wouldn't win. No offense to the four of us, but
Offense taken.
but so no matter how well we've worked together, you got to have great individual ingredients.
Yeah.
But you got to have a great team, and that's what you see in sports. And by the way, it's true. Movies, the Academy Awards. Oh, I'll finish with this. How often is the leading actor or actress in the movie that wins Movie of the Year? And the answer is 20%. 80% of the time, the director is in the movie that wins Movie of the Year. So even in movies and sports and business, you got to have great people and even greater organization through leadership.
You know, it's
So it's very brave of you to bring up the Oscars.
It was.
I know. We need to not go further with that, because that's just, by the way, that's a tragedy for everybody. I feel for everybody. It's horrible for everybody. And nobody, let's all say, nobody accepts violence as a solution to any challenge. So we all agree with that. It's unfortunate. By the way, raise your hand. Everybody, the four of us raise our hands. We got to raise our hands. Then I'm going to tell you what the question is. Raise your hand. How many of us have made a stupid mistake? I raised both of mine. We've all made mistakes. And this was egregious on everybody's part. So we'll move on past that. But Dan, thank you for letting me say, you got to have great people.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have great organizations, and you got to have great leadership, and then the HR services that support them.
Let me add one quick thing before Lisa Marie comes in. We generally think about succession planning in terms of the CEO or the head person. But what I'm hearing from you, Dave, and what I've learned from Dan is that succession planning really needs to be about the system. What system are you leaving behind better than you found it? So we've got to reorient our thinking around succession planning.
Two thoughts. Well, first of all, I'm going to give everybody a big tip. Anytime Dan speaks, just say amen. That'll save us all a whole lot of work. Two thoughts. We differentiate leader, who's the individual, and leadership, which is the collection of creating future leaders. Leaders matter. There's no question. Right. We have iconic leaders, but you've got to have leadership. The second thought is succession planning is often make a mistake because it starts with the person.
Yep.
Who should succeed? A, B, or C? Wrong. You don't start succession with the person, but the requirements of the position. So what does this position require? And once you get clear about that, then you look at the person who may be the best fit for that setting. Excellent. Leadership, not leader. Position, not person.
Very nice.
All right. Let's see. We have a comment. Teams are not only a set of values or performance units. Many organizations don't understand the difference. So I guess the question is, what's the difference between values and performance units? Is that the question?
Again, I know the person has in mind a question, and if they want to flesh it out more.
Yeah.
Individuals have a set of skills, knowledge, skill, ability, engagement, all of those things. Teams bring those individual skills together to create the whole more than the parts.
Yeah.
Again, my PhD is in numerical taxonomy. I confess that. If you know what it is, I'll pay you $10. If you care, I'll pay you $20. But taxonomy is
it really quickly.
Yeah. But taxonomy is the science of taking complex stuff and making it simple. There's hundreds of studies on teamwork. So the question that Andre asked is, what makes a high-performing team? Let me suggest 4 things, because I love simplicity like I did before. Do we have a clear purpose? Do those separate individuals come together for a collective purpose? 2, do we have good governance? How many on the team? How often do we meet? How do we make decisions? 3rd, do we relate with each other? Do we care for each other? And do we conflict with each other? Care and conflict are the same side of the coin. We have to care, and we have to be willing to disagree. And 4, are we constantly learning? Purpose, governance, relationships, and learning. And Lisa Marie, when a group of, again, whatever it could be a musical group, it could be a sports team, it could be whatever it is, a high performing team in a company, an R&D team. When that team has a shared purpose, good governance, relationships, and learning, that team will probably outperform the individual.
Agreed.
So we're talking about performance, we're talking about teamwork, we're talking about fitting the right person according to the requirements versus maybe being groomed for the job. What are some of the opportunities and challenges around developing the next generation of leaders?
It's a great question. And by the way, I think the ultimate test of a leader is, did he or she create leadership? And I'll answer that at two levels. One is a very personal level. I've done a lot of research and we write books and all that kind of stuff, like Dan and others on leadership. I find the simplest test of a good leader: did you leave an interaction with that individual feeling better or worse about yourself? What a simple test. By the way, as a leader, when I coach, I say, think about people you interact with. If it's good news, how great this show is. Wow, I feel great. Douglas makes me feel good. Lisa Marie makes me feel good. But what if it's bad news? How do we as leaders, and how do those of us who coach leaders lead better? I'll give a quick story. You like stories. I'm coaching a leader, big company, very successful, very senior. I won't name the company. Very tough company. One of his employees, happened to be a male, made an egregious mistake, cost the company a lot of money. I had an agreement with this leader that before the leader would communicate with the employee, I got to coach. So the leader wrote out the communication, was actually going to do an email, which is another problem, and said, you made a horrible mistake. It's costing us an enormous amount of money. You must change or you will likely be fired. And I said, may I edit that with 3 sentences? And he said, I guess. I'm paying you to coach me. Number 1, I care about you. Number 2, you have great potential at this company. Then you made a big mistake. You need to fix it. Then number 3, let's learn from that mistake so that you're not fired. Notice I didn't walk away from you made a mistake. I think sometimes in the world today, we see leaders as soft. Oh, it's okay. Anything goes. You're entitled. We'll love you. No, you made a mistake. And it's okay to say that. That's part of maybe that question of, there is an accountability. There is a tough love. But I care about you. You have great potential. You made a mistake. Now let's learn so that we can get better. I think that's a test of leadership at a very personal level. There's a lot of research now, Lisa Marie, about next generation leadership. And I can get into that. But I think at a very personal level, that is so helpful. So if I'm listening and I'm saying, wow, I'm a leader, I've got to have an interaction with an employee that's going to be one of those, quote, difficult conversations that Joe Grenny and Carrie Patterson talk about. Start with positive. How do I make sure that employee leaves feeling better about him or herself?
To follow on that, Dave, one of our favorite shows as a family is American Idol. And the other night, we love Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan. The other night, they have, especially at the very beginning, they have the tough task of letting people down.
Oh, that's it. I had not thought of that. That's a great.
And saying, there are 2 things they do. One is they'll say, I'm a no for now.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning
not ready yet.
Or not ready yet.
Nice.
But Lionel Richie, the great philosopher Lionel Richie said, winning is winning, but losing is learning.
Oh, I love it.
So
Carol Dweck, the psychologist who came up with growth mindset, she has a line. It's in the other room. I should go get it. I made it as a pillow for my wife. I'm not failing. I'm learning.
Very nice.
And it's the same thing. I mean, and by the way, my take on that is, if you haven't failed on something in the last 30 or 60 days, you're not stretching.
Yeah.
I don't. By the way, if you fail 3 or 4 times on the same thing, then you've got another problem. But I hope people will get outside there, and we are. And for example, Lisa Marie, one of the issues that's coming with next generation is, how do you navigate the paradox of entitlement and delivery? I've seen that right now with next Gen Z. I've grown up without having to be challenged for many of that generation. How do we navigate this incredible paradox? And I think that's one of the opportunities of leadership. The other issue on next generation, if I could be so bold.
Yeah.
I am obviously a baby boomer. I don't have to declare my birthday. Just look at my face. Baby boomers, born before 1964, 64 to 82, Gen X. I don't know if any of you are in that category. 82 to 2002, and then post 98 or 2000. Everybody loves to think that this next generation is different. Let me tell you what the research shows. We're all the same on some fundamentals of why we work. The next generation likes creativity. Dan, I'm going to be so bold as to assume you might join me in that baby boomer cadre. Dan, do you like Do you like creativity?
Oh, love it.
Love it. I want to have meaning in my job. Duh. So, by the way, I don't know if anybody on the call is Generation X. Everybody just ignores them from 64 to 82. We don't care about you. But by the way, a lot of what is the same. Why people work is the same. How people work differs. That's the headline. Why do I work? Believe, become, and belong. We did a book called Why Work, Why People Work. You work for meaning and purpose. You work to learn and to grow. You work to be connected in relationships. That is the same. But this current generation, how they work is going to be very different. Technology. I got a new phone the other day. I didn't bring it with me. And I'm embarrassed that I don't know how to do some stuff. And I asked somebody last night and they said, do you have a grandchild over 8? And about 8. And I said, yes. And they said, ask them. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of the next generation recognize the same basics are the same. Believe, become, and belong. And then how you go about work may vary quite a bit.
Yeah. I love that.
Dave, I've
become, and belong.
If I could just jump in, I've got a whole batch of nieces and nephews who are in the millennial age, and they're all just great kids. I call them kids, but they do work differently. But I love their attitude. I love their approach. And I think, we're all always complaining about the next generation. I think we're in pretty good hands, actually.
Oh, I'm teaching a class at a local university. I don't teach a lot of students at the University of Michigan, but I'm teaching a class at a local university, and I walk away in awe. Yeah. We had a class last night. I just walk away in awe. Literate, believe, become, and belong. They've got that. Yep. And then they're literate. They're curious. They're trying to solve the paradoxes of the world. Yep. How do we live in a world of incredible angst and pain? The crisis in the Ukraine, which will date some of this if people watch it later, but there's an ongoing crisis, and still manage to be humanitarian. I'm so impressed, Dan, with the next generation.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely love them.
Well,
I raised one too, so I might be a little biased. But
well, talking about the next generations and the next generation, we have 11-year-old twins. And
wow.
Our daughter was home one day doing her math homework, and I was kind of looking over her shoulder. I was like, "No, that's not how you do it. That's not the right answer." And she got very irritated with me, and she said, "Mom, let me do it because I need to fail forward."
Oh,
and I was like,
"That's growth mindset.
You're talking about failing forward." And never.
That's so cool. We had to give her Carol Dweck's book to read.
Yes.
Well, funny enough, our son's teacher has been talking about growth mindset versus fixed mindset with our son. And when we're back to American Idol, we were watching The Masked Singer the other night with the kids. And one of the contestants, our son, said, "I think that contestant probably has both a growth mindset and a fixed mindset." And so we talked about that for a little bit. But just the whole idea of being in school and not understanding something and just allowing yourself to fail, knowing that it will help you get to where you're going, I think is remarkable.
I agree.
Great.
If I could just jump in with another comment, Dave, you reminded me of one of the people I interviewed for in my book. There's a woman who's the principal of an elementary school. And when she became principal, the school was performing academically at the lowest level of all of the elementary schools in the district. 5 years later, it's actually closing the achievement gap, which in education is a massive
hard to do.
Yeah, really hard to do. And when I asked her about her approach to leadership, she said, "I don't know anything about leadership." Then she went on to explain to me the most eloquent system of leadership I saw, probably outside the United States military. But when I said, so, well, if you could use one or two words to describe your approach to leadership, what would they be? And she said, she kind of went like this. She said, well, it's not going to be very popular, but love and grace.
I love it.
And I thought, I'm thinking to myself, okay, right behind me, there's 450 elementary school kids streaming into the school. It's almost the last day of school before summer break. And she reads my mind. She says, that's not the way I'm thinking about these words. She said, love and grace means I could have a difficult conversation with a team member before it blows up.
Oh, nice.
And then we talked for an hour. She didn't use the word grace ever again. So, and my last question was always about innovation. And so we got to, my next question was going to be innovation, but she hadn't mentioned the word grace. And so I said, okay, you've talked about love and leadership. Well, what about grace? And she goes like this. She unbuttons the sleeve of her blouse, and on her wrist, she has tattooed grace, the word grace.
Wow.
And she says, this is how we do innovation.
Okay.
And
Nice.
she
What a
said,
great story.
in education, innovation is incredibly difficult because if we lose 2 weeks of time teaching Billy math, that's 2 weeks that's gone.
Nice.
And she said, sometimes we have to take the risk and be willing to fail and
So
acknowledge
Dan,
that
on
it didn't work.
your other thing, what is tattooed on your wrist? I would love to know on your other. You got grace there, but on the other one, I'd love to know what's on your wrist.
I don't have anything tattooed there, but she had grace tattooed right on her
That's
wrist.
so interesting. That's so interesting. Let me share, and I know the time is going. We could do this for hours. We could do this for hours. Let me share something I learned in the last probably 5 or 6 weeks. It's really helped me. And Douglas and Lisa Marie, I'm going to use you as a case study. You have 2 twins. Do you know what they're going to study when they're in college?
No.
Do you know where they're going to go to college?
No.
Do you know who they're going to have relationships with?
No.
Do you know where they're going to live?
No.
We live in a world of incredible uncertainty. The global pandemic, and now I'm going to go from your personal example to the world. The global pandemic, social injustice, military incursion, digital. I was told the other day, what's your avatar? And I said, I'm not sure yet. I'm not quite up on metaverse all the way yet. I mean, blockchain is still, I'm learning that. We live in this world of unbelievable uncertainty, and it affects us. We get stuck. How do you harness the uncertainty? I've discovered I need to change the frame. You don't know what's going to happen to your twins, but let me ask you a different question. What do you know about your relationship with your 2 twins? No matter what they do, where they live, how they behave, what their careers. What do you know absolutely without any shadow of a doubt?
We love them. They love us.
Love and grace. That's what triggered it with
Yes.
them. You know what? I think sometimes in a world where we can't predict the future, instead of trying to predict what is, when we don't know, start with what we do know. In an organization, as a leader, what do you know? I've done that exercise. I know that I'm going to try to learn. That's my passion. I've had that for decades. I know that I'm going to try to learn to create value for others. What is the leadership agenda you have? And what is our organizational agenda? And I think in a world of uncertainty, we don't want to obsess on the uncertainty. We want to get very, very focused on the certainty. What is the certainty that we come with? So that's one message. And by the way, I feel that as a parent, and I can feel, and I think, Dan, you had nieces and nephews, and we have children and grandchildren. I don't know what's going to happen to them, nor do I know what's going to happen in an industry. I don't know if metaverse is going to work or not. But I do know a couple of things. And I think in organizations, when we obsess with the unknown, we sometimes get lost rather than focusing on the known. I'll stop with that. I had 2 insights. That's one I feel like that was helpful for me, by the way. People say, are you going to do hybrid work? I don't know. Are you going to have work 3 days a week or 2 days a week in office? I don't know. What are you going to do for hiring the next generation? I don't know. Well, what do you know? Whoever I hire in the next generation, I will treat with respect. I will give them opportunities to learn and to grow, believe, become, and belong. I don't care where you work. In fact, I think hybrid work is almost the wrong question. I don't care where you work. I don't care how you work. I know that if your work will create value for a customer, we will have a better company. Let's focus on not where we work and how we work, but why we work and what we work on.
Well, you said to say amen to Dan, but we'll say amen to that as well.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks.
Dan, you've got a question, I think, about the Great Resignation.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I got wrapped up in the conversation. So, as you know, right now everybody's worrying about the Great Resignation. What do you think is behind this?
Oh.
And from the standpoint of culture and leadership, where do you think that's going?
Well, then I could ask you, what do you think? I mean, let's go back and forth. You tell me, you tell me one, or Douglas or Lisa Marie, and I'll tell you one. What's behind it? I'll start. I mean, unemployment is at lowest levels it's been forever, so people have opportunities. That's one. What else?
I think there's a shift in power.
I agree. Employee, what was it called? Employee primacy. It wasn't my term. You have to look up who said it. Employees have more authority and power than the company because they have. That was yours. I'll do another one. A lot of people have never worked in their company in person, so they have no social cohesion.
Right.
The research I've seen says productivity goes up working at home in isolation, like many of us are right now, but social cohesion goes down, and it's social cohesion that keeps us working together.
Right.
Any other drivers from any of us? Not a shock. What's next? I don't know exactly. What I do know is that when employees feel connected to the company as a vehicle to create value in the marketplace, they're more likely to stay in the company. So if I, as an employee, I don't care where I work. I could be in the beautiful house where Lisa Marie and Douglas are, or Dan in your office, or me in my office. If I see my work connected to serving customers, I'm more likely to stay because I see the value. I know that if I feel connected to other people, Tom Peters did a great book with Waterman, Managing by Wandering Around in Search of Excellence.
Yep.
It was a Hewlett Packard idea. Well, guess what? We're not going to wander into your office. We're not going to let our spy cam, automatically turn on and see what you're doing. So I've been in a company where the leader does a check-in. Every week, I'm going to check in with the 5 or 10 employees who report to me for 10 minutes and not talk about work.
Yep.
How you doing, Dan? How's that? How are those nieces? How are those nephews? Lisa Marie, how are your kids doing at learning from failure? Whatever it is. And I joke about that. I think when I know that if we treat our employees at a distance as if it's personal, we'll have a better relationship and it's going to be more likely to succeed. So I think the Great Resignation is a little bit of an inevitable blip for all the reasons we just said.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like, I remember when 2020 happened, the last 2 years feel like one. Everybody was gaga. Where are you going to work at home? How are you going to work at home? That was a 6 to 9 month blip. I think this is going to be a blip, and I think we'll see some back to the basics of business.
I love the fact that you, Dave, and Dan, both of you have this real focus on the customer. And it seems sort of obvious that people would have that. But I think one of the best ways to get an employee sort of back in the saddle, back on track, not to feel bad, but to feel good, is to remember the customer. And I think a lot of what happens, I used to work at MasterCard a long time ago. We get in a bubble and we're just kind of we're insulated from our customer. And I don't think we wake up every day thinking about who our customer is.
By the way, Douglas, can we do a high five? I don't know if you can do a high five virtually. Yes. We should do double high five.
Yes.
I said earlier there were 2 things I want to share. Let me share the second. And I often get known as doing HR, people, organization. I say, what's the most important thing that a leader or an HR professional can give an employee? And I start with what we said: believe, meaning, become, learn, belong. All the above or none of the above. Not 80%, all the above. And I say, no, that's not the most important thing you can give an employee. And everybody's going, what's wrong with this guy? Did he wake up grouchy? No. The most important thing we can give an employee is a company that succeeds in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. If we don't succeed in the marketplace, there is no workplace. There's no believe. There's no become. There's no belong. And I'm old enough. I have worked with a lot of companies: Toys R Us, Circuit City, Digital Equipment, People Express, the airline of the 80s, that had great talent, organization, and leadership practices, and 1 million people are out of work.
Yeah.
I think we start with the marketplace. What does that mean? A lot of people define culture as the roots of the tree. It's our values. I think that's the wrong metaphor. I think culture is the leaves of the tree. Culture, for me, is the identity of the firm in the mind of our best customer, then made real to employees. Now, I showed this picture at the beginning because you father of
Yes.
HR. That's Disney.
Ah.
Let me tell a quick anecdote because you like stories about how this is critical. Our son finished his PhD. We're proud of him. We said, "What would you like?" He said, "Dad, I'd like to go with our children to Disney." Well, as soon as he said it, his sister said it, and his sister said it. So 4 years ago, we showed up with 16 of us at Disney in Florida. For those who've not been to Florida, it's hot, it's humid, and our kids said, "We got to stay on property. We've got to have the full experience," which means Dad pays. 4 nights, 5 days at Disney. I'm grouchy. In fact, I think I have a picture of that. I am so grouchy and so grumpy. And the woman takes our picture, and I'm just looking here for some pictures quick. I can't see it. She says, "This is the happiest place on earth." And I said, "Not for me. I'm not going to get a new car. I mean, 4 days, 4 families. Hang on." So a few hours later, a day later, we walked in and out walked the princess.
Mm-hmm.
And our granddaughter, I don't know. Well, you would know with your 11-year-old twins the names. I'm not good at names, and our granddaughters and grandson looked up and said, "Grandpa, Grandpa, she's real. Look how beautiful she is.
Yeah.
She's real and she's beautiful. Grandpa, we love you." Now you're going, "Oh, that's sweet." I didn't go, "Oh, that's sweet." I said, "Oh, that's horrible," because we're going to have to come back again and again and again. And we did. I mean, we went back again. A year later, we did the Disney cruise. And so we still didn't have a car. And then this is December, 4 months ago. What's Disney done? Take a step back. The culture they've created is not the roots of their tree. It's the customer and guest experience. Mm-hmm. They want to create magic. They want to create an experience in their movies, their theme parks. And they hire people, they train people, they do everything they can in that park so that we are having an incredible experience, and they charge for it.
Yeah.
If I'm in HR or leadership and I want to work on my culture, start outside in. What do we want to be known for by our key customers in the future? How do I then make that real to my employees? Through my HR practices, hiring, training, compensation, communication, org design. When I can begin to build, I call it the right culture. Culture is not just a random set of values. It's values that create value in the marketplace. I'm sorry, Douglas, I get off on this.
Because no, this is perfect. Though. Keep going.
I get so frustrated when I see everybody talking about culture as the roots of our tree. Well, how are they creating value for your customers? Because if they don't, the culture is going to be short term. And the same is true of leadership. You have a leadership competency model. 90% of companies have them. Does your leadership competency model match your advertising, your promises to your customers? Go look at your external promises, social media, advertising, print, whatever it is. Look at your competencies for leaders. If those don't overlap at 80%, you're going to be promising customers A, B, and C and training leaders to do X, Y, and Z. And no wonder you're not successful. I think everything we do in talent, are we the employer of choice of employees our customers would choose? Culture, do we have the identity in the marketplace? And leadership is driven by that outside in point of view. Okay, that's, by the way, that's my passion. That's the plea I beg of us in this field to get outside in.
Dave, most of my consulting experience has been in the public sector. One of the things that got me asking this question, how do high performing organizations, how do they approach leadership, was because I frankly got sick and tired of working with organizations where the leadership itself virtually were not allowed to create successful organizations because of the overwriting system. I had finished a project for a large state agency several years ago, There was light at the end of the tunnel. It was going to take about 1.5 years for them to implement everything that we had come up with. And I was just walking out the door. I had my coat on, my camera, my computer bag, and almost in a tone of confession, the deputy director said, I don't even tell my friends where I work anymore. And I turned around, I said, why not? She said, it's just too embarrassing. And the more I got thinking about that, I thought, it's almost criminal.
Yeah.
I have, we think of a government employee as not caring about their customer. I have yet to find a government employee who did not care about their customer, but they were frustrated because they couldn't care about their customer, and they were irritated.
They were restricted. Yeah.
They were restricted,
Yeah.
and I get angry when I look at organizations, and it's like they're people. They want to work for a championship caliber organization, and they're almost prohibited to.
Dan, I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to turn the table I know we've gone a bit on Douglas and Lisa Marie. Dan, I'm going to take that as one of your takeaways. What should leaders do to build a high-performing organization where your identity in the marketplace is clear? Douglas and Lisa Marie, you're optimists. I can tell from your work and your body of work. What gives you hope about next generation culture and leadership? We've got Dan's hope that when leaders can build an identity and allow people to liberate themselves, what gives each of you hope in that next generation of leadership and leaders and culture?
First of all, I think this is the most exciting time we could possibly be living in when it comes to innovation, invention, cures, all of these things. It's really, really magical. At the same time, it's one of the most dangerous, perilous times we've ever been in. What gives me hope is that the human experience in the human being hasn't really changed in millennia. And what we need to make sure is that people have the right values. They care about each other. They love each other. They put their customer first. They are willing to be humble so they can understand what they don't know and ask. So I think human beings are relatively still the same. So that gives me hope. Lisa Marie.
Well, I was just going to say, I think children, our children, people our children's age, who are the second generation to come up, are now witnessing a generation of purpose-driven businesses. And they see it in advertising, they see it in marketing, they see it in social media. They love the Darman videos. They think, all the morality shows out there about morality plays. They expect businesses to be good to the environment and be good to their customers. And so I think that they are being brought up into that culture.
I love the three comments, and I think we're going to echo the same. And I'm assuming many listening, we confirm. About 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now, the Business Roundtable came out, Profit and Purpose, Profit and People. I challenged it. Here is my challenge. One word I think is off, and it's the and word. I change it. Profit through purpose, profit through people. These are not orthogonal. They're not, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to do profit. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'm going to do purpose. How do we connect those? And I think that human connection that all of us talk about will create value in the marketplace with customers. When we treat our people as if they're our best customers and our customers as if they're our best people, we create a virtuous cycle, or spiral is better, that grows. And to me, that's what leadership, talent, and culture is about. And it's not easy to go there. I'm not going to be Pollyanna, because there's all kinds of speed bumps and challenges. But boy, when that mindset, that's what I hope we have certainty about in an uncertain world. That we can create talent, organization, leadership through HR, my stupid way, and I'm sorry to do that.
No, it's good.
When we can create that agenda that allows an organization to succeed with customers, I'd also say it's success with investors. Today, 80% of most companies is intangible value. It's not your cash flow, it's your confidence in future earnings. And in communities. I'm seeing in the last 5 weeks with the humanitarian crisis in Eastern Europe, people coming together and saying, how do we solve social citizenship issues? And it could be the refugee crisis, it could be climate change, it could be other social issues. Tencent, one of the big companies in China, just took out their new tagline is technology for good. We're going to use technology to help people have better lives. I think that is an agenda that gives me, with all of us and those listening, a sense of hope.
That's excellent. And what a great question, by the way.
We could talk about this all day, but we do need to wrap up. I'm just going to say, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing. And audience, you can reach Dave on LinkedIn at Dave Ulrich Pro or on his website at rbl.net. And you can also find a replay of this episode on our website at communicateForImpact.com or on Dan's website at danieleds.com. And we hope you will join us for our next episode of The Genetics of Leadership on April 26th. That's coming up soon, with guest Dr. Daniel Halleck, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Wild Leaders, Inc. And Wild Leaders specializes in whole and intentional leadership development. So thank you again so much. And until next time, everyone stay well.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you.